How about we go with the round of introductions first, starting with you, Partha.
Hey, I'm Partha, the CTO of Etherspot. Happy to be a part of this Twitter Spaces on 7702 and yeah, the infrastructure.
Uh, Tom.
Hey, my name is Tom. I'm with the Ethereum Foundation with the account and chain abstraction team, and we've been working. And I'm a product manager there, and we've been excited to work with Etherspot on making sure this launches, and we're very excited about this.
Awesome. Alden.
Hey guys, I'm from PillarX, which is a wallet that's going to be consuming the Etherspot and the Ethereum Foundation infrastructure. And yeah, excited to be here.
And Harry.
Hey, I'm Harry. I'm a software engineer at OP Labs on the ecosystem team. Just to give a brief introduction for those that don't know, OP Labs is the lab's function of Optimism. Optimism is building a superchain to scale Ethereum. It's superchain is a collection of L2 chains that are all built on our stack and account for about 60% of L2 transactions. And specifically, the team I work on, the ecosystem team, is working with the application developers and ecosystem partners to make the superchain the best place to launch a chain or build an on-chain app.
Awesome. Before we get into the technical talks, I would just like to have like a random question float around. Like, what do you guys think about the entire abstraction space right now? And then we can get into the entire of like EIP-7702 and the infrastructure, and more depth to the space. So, like, any ideas? Like, what are your favorite abstraction things that are currently going on?
So, if you don't mind, I'll go first. So what I think I want to kind of like maybe I see some confusion around 7702 and 4337, and I think well this is my thoughts on this, but I've been hearing this from other people in the space as well. Is that the way I would look at it is that 7702 is a great solution for existing EOAs, that you have your existing wallet, and that's usually very much the case for regular, I would say, non-Web3 wallets. They might be able to connect through Wallet Connect, but it's mostly about just like having your assets and everything, not necessarily using dApps too much. So for those existing users, 7702 is a great solution because it lets you maintain your same account. But for new users, someone who's just onboarding for the first time, I honestly don't see a reason to use 7702. You should probably use 4337. The thing that you also understand is a lot of the underlying infrastructure is the same. The accounts are the same. You use the same user operations. You got to use bundlers to relay them to the user up mempool and then have them included on chain. So a lot of the infrastructure is shared, and that was part of the design because we wanted to build on that existing, tried and tested accounts and infrastructure and everything around that. But I would just say, like, in what's going on in the account abstraction space right now, for your question, is that we are seeing both the usage, both from 772 and from 4337, but each for their own use cases, depending on which user you're trying to onboard.
You. In terms of use cases, what do you guys think? Like, which is the okay? Like, I just one last drifting question. I know I'm running off script here, but what is your favorite use case for 7702? Partha?
As Tom described, I mean, 7702 is really efficient for existing wallets to upgrade, existing UAs to upgrade to a smart wallet and achieve the same better user experience than any form of interaction on chain. And as I completely agree with Tom when he says that if you're a new wallet and you're newly getting onboarded, probably 7702 is not for you. But the best use case I would say is like batching calls. So you're making use of a paymaster and not relying on a centralized infrastructure, which is something we'd be discussing later today. But yeah, that is my favorite use case for sensor node.
Okay, so that brings us to the question of like what is the need for a dedicated EIP 7702 infrastructure? Guys, hello.
So can you repeat the question?
So I presume
Okay. So I just asked like what now we've known like the use case, the rough ideas about it. So what would be the purpose and vision behind the EIP 7702? And I think Tom would be the best person to take it away.
Yeah, so I think I covered some of it in my previous response, which is that it's all about giving a way to give users the power of account abstraction, which is mostly around key management and gas abstraction, and batching. Those are like most of the wallets integrating 772 are primarily excited about gas abstraction and batching, because those are the things, if you're talking about DeFi, that improves user experience significantly. Key management, in my opinion, is also something really great, but to be honest, with 7702, it's not exactly what you get with 4237, because your EOA is always kind of like that admin key that can do everything. So with 4237, when you create an account and you know that whatever key you use in the contract, that's the only key out there, with 772, you don't really have that. But that's not what's interesting to those wallets. Their users already know how to manage those EOAs. So we're seeing a lot of use cases in DeFi for that. And I feel like that's allowing a lot of I don't know how many people listening here ever use just like, I'm assuming most of you use just like regular EOAs. They're very hard to use, and so we're trying to get past that with 7702.
I'm curious though regarding the comparison between the two of them. And I know, Tom, you're recommending 4337 for brand new users, but from an interoperability perspective, like if I set up a new smart contract based wallet with 4337, from my experience, it's not that easy to move over to a new wallet, for example. And EOAs, you have that experience that you can easily migrate over. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that side, because it seems to be to me when you're using 4337, you're kind of locked into a specific provider that's providing the service for you and a particular ecosystem.
So when you say lock into a provider, you mean in the sense of your account itself?
Yeah.
So the account, first of all, that's a contract on chain. So in theory, you're not locked in. You can always, choose a different provider to interact with that contract, because the contract is still yours. And if the account was done in a way which is in line with what we want to maintain in terms of decentralization and self-custodianship and all that stuff, then in theory you're not locked in. Yes, obviously there could be. It's not necessarily always easy, because we can't expect people to set up their own UX, but it is possible for someone else to step in and say, hey, I'll just interact with this contract. In regards to chain abstraction, and this is something that's actually very interesting. So if any of you are coming to DevConnect, we're going to be unveiling something very interesting in terms of chain abstraction and allowing you to easily move assets cross-chain between your accounts. And it has to be with account abstraction. It needs to be a 4337 account or 7702. They both work, like I said, same infrastructure. And there will be a very well, there are intents today as well. There are ways to do this, but we're unveiling a way which is as trustless as possible. So we're trying to maintain a lot of those values around censorship resistance and decentralization, and not being a situation where you have to rely on someone else to do things for you on chain that you don't necessarily want them doing. And finally, about this address across different chains, those are things that are improving. That was more of a problem early on. There's a lot of interesting solution coming out in regards to having like key stores that are more, let's say, fluid around different chains. Actually, we have the account abstraction hub at DevConnect, and we are going to have a team there that's going to be actually showcasing one of their solutions. So we are seeing progress in that regard as well. it's it's usually hard because it's about coordinating a lot of different players in the ecosystem, and they all sometimes think they have the right way to do it, and they might have. The problem is that if one goes in one direction, one goes in the other. What we're actually trying to do here is standardize. This is where it gets a little bit challenging. But usually the best solutions kind of like tend to rise to the top by themselves.
So like then why do we need a dedicated 7702 infrastructure?
Sure, I can take this as well. So the thing that the 7702 infrastructure they're providing, the idea here is the mempool. This is what stands at the heart of how Ethereum is decentralized, right? Because if in theory, if you took all of your transactions and you have your own block builder, and you have, or not yours, or you just go to some private block builder. I'm talking now about EOAs even. Okay, I'm not even talking about a con abstraction in 437. You could, in theory, not use the mempool. The problem is that if nobody uses the mempool, then the mempool, if it kind of like would have, if the mempool were to dry up, it would mean that a lot of people would be stuck in a sense that they cannot necessarily find a way to put their transactions on chain. And you start getting into the realm of censorship and a lot of other problems around that. And with 437, right now we still didn't have the user of mempool when we released 437 because we wanted to get it into the hands of people as quickly as possible. And together with Etherspot and Candy Labs and Stelius, which is another bundler, we've all been working on getting the mempool live, and we actually launched it live, still permissioned, back in November of last year in DevCon, and now we're actually moving towards making it unpermissioned on mainnet, and Parthar can probably speak a lot more to that. But the reason that we're promoting the use of the mempool is that because, and just to be clear, every transaction through this free infrastructure will go through the mempool. We're trying to promote this usage, and it's also it will also benefit other bundler teams to use the mempool, because then, just like the regular mempool, they get more of a deal flow. They have more transactions to build a block from, which helps them to make sure that they have full block, that they can make more profit. It aligns incentives. It also benefits the users because they get a better user experience in the sense that they know that if they put a transaction on the mempool, it's not as brittle. It won't necessarily get censored, meaning that if one bundler doesn't pick it up, then another bundler will pick it up. So you have that kind of user experience benefit as well. All the benefits we have from a mempool. Anything that, like, saying that we don't need a user of mempool is the equivalent of saying we don't need a mempool. And if you think we don't need a mempool in Ethereum, I feel like that's just like building a very complicated AWS, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting, Tom, you mentioned AWS. That's another thing that we wanted to highlight. Earlier this week, or we had an outage, or last week, we had an outage on AWS, which didn't bring down Ethereum, but there were outages on few blockchains, and there were outages on few providers as well. If we really intend Ethereum to be decentralized and not to be affected by a single point of failure, then the public mempool or the shared mempool in the case of account abstraction really makes sense. So it is advantageous to both the end users as well as infrastructure providers like bundlers and paymasters not to rely on a single point of failure. If everyone were to participate in the shared mempool, even if your infrastructure was down, your end users can continue to transact on chain, and they would never be kept out of their wallet. So this is another reason why I believe the shared mempool makes a lot of sense, and helps to keep Ethereum and other EVM chains decentralized as you can be. In align with this, if I can take some time to elaborate on how this new infrastructure is set up, we have a single, we have a separate bundler instance which is hosted for Ethereum Foundation, which would receive user operations. And we abstract away this, communication or interfacing with this bundler by releasing a new SDK called Free Bundler SDK, which you can use in conjunction with the VM. Going earlier when we had the pure 4TT7 setup, and each team came up with their own SDK, and both wallets and projects, the friction for them was to support a new SDK. But things have changed a lot since VM introduced account abstraction out of the box. And the new SDK we provide is something that you can pair and use along with VM SDK. So you don't need to change, projects need not have to change their existing code in any way. If you are already using VM, you just have to include an additional add-on, and there you're done. You can start submitting your user operations, everything to the public infrastructure, which is already being paid for by Ethereum Foundation. So you get it free out of the box. And for bundler teams, the bundler that receives the user operations does not bundle and process them at once. So this user operations that are received by the EF bundler gets propagated to all peers. So every bundler has an equal chance of receiving and bundling these user operations. And as Tom suggested, the more the user ops are there, the more profitable bundlers can be, because they can bundle more profitable user operations for from their own pool and relay it on chain. So this is at a very high level how the current infrastructure works.
That that actually makes sense. But my question is for Harry. So how does this infra align with Optimism's roadmap for account abstraction?
Good question. So 7702 and just like in general, like account abstraction is like important to like our mission, which is for bringing like crypto rails to more enterprises, and also just in general, like our focus on delivering cheap, scalable block space for everyone. So having a permissionless mempool like this really helps push that mission forward, because now we can basically essentially have execution that's more fast and fair by increasing the amount of bundlers, the competition, the open market, and then also keeping the fee market like open and competitive. So I really see it as making like the account abstraction layer on Optimism just more resilient and robust. And also, part that's interesting that you mentioned that you guys are building an SDK around this. I'd love to talk to you after this to see to get more information on that, because we are also, like my team at OP Labs is also building an SDK specifically for DeFi and doing DeFi actions on chain. And as part of that SDK, we want to make it easier to just use smart accounts and have them trigger like on-chain DeFi actions. So we'd love to see if we can integrate your SDK into ours and see if there's an
Sure.
overlap there. Yeah, and just like in general, like Optimism, we partner with like Coinbase, with Base, Uniswap, with Unichain, Kraken, all of these partners. They're like really on the cutting edge of smart account tech and trying to like drive this forward as well. So we have direct feedback loops into what they're doing, and we're always making customizations and improvements to the OP stack based on their feedback. So we'll be constantly like pushing forward account abstraction adoption through that as well.
You so like Partha, what is the technical requirements for any project to get started with this infra?
Sure. So if you're a wallet, as I described, there's a new SDK. More information would be shared after the space. It's just a simple add-on to VM, which you can include, and then you can start using the shared mempool. If you're a bundler, do reach out to me or to Tom. We can get you on board, and you can start participating in the shared mempool as well.
Makes sense. Uh, so this is for Alden. Like, how do you think the 7702 infra integration will improve PillarX wallet capabilities?
Well, sorry. So 7702 brings forward like, existing wallet users. So we're looking at the legacy users that have been around the block for a bit, that have assets predominantly usually on mainnet Ethereum. So having them not move their assets over, which is like a good way to burn your users, deposit them into a different account, and then from there get the smart contract-based wallet that you need as a 4337 angle. Helps out a lot. Now, you don't get the full capabilities of like key rotation because you're still limited on EOA side. Um, but from a usability perspective, it allows us also to capture, or facilitate other wallets out there that are EOA wallets. So this is what I was alluding to earlier when I was saying that, a lot of these providers, let's say Web3 Auth or like any of the social logins providers that are bringing, a smart account forward, you're kind of locked into that account. It's very difficult to export, the usability of that smart contract based wallet. But it's much easier to export your, private key of your EOA, which is usually the signer of the smart contract based wallet, and then utilize that. So I'm personally quite excited about 7702 in the aspect of bringing forward its capabilities and the smart contract features from like existing user base that is out there, but also facilitating other users that want to try out, different wallets or different infrastructure. I think from a operability perspective, it's quite nice. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. Then what are your main technical considerations or dependencies before integrating the 7702 infra?
Well, the wallets they need to have like a secure enclave for the key, right? So like a lot of the web-based aspects are kind of excluded from 7702. So looking at like dependencies, you'll have to have a very secure way of like how do you deal with the private key, which comes back to the forefront. Like you can't have a user come in with MetaMask or Wallet Connect to your wallet and then like be upgraded to 7702. No, it's not possible. You actually need to get the private key and facilitate this upgrade. So it brings us back a little bit of like how we used to operate at the beginning, which is like you create a new account, you get 12 words, or you get a private key, etc. But there is another EIP that's like brings forward passkeys into the equation, which I'm quite excited about. I forgot what the EIP was. I think it was 7951, something like that. But that's going to bring native passkey support, which I think will help out a lot with abstracting away the 12 words aspect, but also tying it into 7702 or a fully fledged 4337 wallet.
Yep. So I have the same question for Harry as well. Main technical considerations or dependencies before integrating the 7702 infra.
Yeah, I would say like specifically like on the bundler side, like if you're running a bundler against this like shared mempool, yeah, OP stack chains offer the ETH send raw transaction conditional endpoint, which you should use in order to protect yourself against like on-chain reverts. Basically, the idea behind that is like if you have like two bundlers trying to pick up a user op, there's like essentially a race condition there. If one bundler submits it before yours, you want to be able to set these conditions when you make your request so that if that bundle is submitted before you're able to submit it, you don't pay gas on chain unnecessarily. And then for like application developers, like Optimism just committed to making like whatever protocol changes are needed to support account abstraction. We were one of like the first layer twos to support 7702 after the L1 Pectra upgrade. I think it was like 2 days after. So like if you're building on our stack, you can just be confident that you'll get early access to like the latest features and developer experience on it as account abstraction evolves. And just like in general, if you're a builder that's building tooling for account abstraction, like please reach out to us or reach out to me directly because we'd love to hear from you and support you.
Yep, awesome. Just one last question. So going around the hypothetical table here, what do you think are the next steps for your respective projects regarding 7702? So let's just start with Partha, then Harry, then Alden, and then Tom. Like, what are the next few steps for your project?
Right. So from the Etherspot side, the first launch, we have introduced this infrastructure, the free one, on Ethereum mainnet and Optimism. We'll be rolling out soon on Base and Arbitrum. We are waiting for the native trace to be integrated into their respective nodes. I'm told Arbitrum is expected sometime next week, and Base in a few weeks. We just need to keep track of when the native tracer. This tracer actually improves the speed of user of validation and inclusion as well, because the performance from the previous JavaScript tracer is much better. So yeah, that's one of our criteria, and then we'll slowly be starting to introduce this infrastructure on other Ethereum L2s, which we'll be sharing as soon as it's live. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Harry?
Yeah, kind of like what I mentioned before. I think next steps for us is like once this is out there, like getting developers to actually build on top of it. So like I mentioned, we're building an SDK to help with submitting on-chain like DeFi actions using account abstraction. So I want to like dig more into this and see how we can integrate that more directly with the public shared mempool.
Awesome. Alden?
Yeah, from our perspective, we're almost there with getting the release out for 7702 support. I think we'll start first with the initial infrastructure, I think entry point 8, and then move on to the public shared mempool that's going to be running by the Ethereum and Etherspot Foundation. So yeah, we're very close to releasing this. It's going to work in conjunction with our chain abstraction solution, also provided by Etherspot, called Pulse. So yeah, all the pieces are coming together nicely to activate our user base that are still predominantly on EOAs.
Awesome. And Tom?
Yeah, so from our end, we're focused on just advancing all the account and chain abstraction solutions out there. So 7702, in terms of protocol, I'm not really sure if there's anything more to be done there right now, but when it comes to account abstraction in general, we're also focusing on 7701, which is native account abstraction. Which will add a lot of benefits when you don't really need the entry point contract anymore, because everything is on chain, so it's not contract based, it's protocol based. There's some optimizations there, also even in terms of gas. And in addition to that, I mentioned that before, which is EIL, the Ethereum interop layer, which we will be unveiling in a couple of weeks in DevConnect, which will offer a trustless way to move assets between chains, which I think is something that's very much needed in the space. It will be something that will also work alongside Intense. We will dive more how those two live together during DevConnect when we unveil everything. So yeah, so 7702, it's kind of is in a sense like the base for that, because you need accounts to have those account abstraction capabilities around batching, around gas abstraction, to have those cross-chain capabilities that we're talking about. So we're trying to promote the usage of 7702, and we believe that once we also offer this chain abstraction capability, then it will be even a higher motivation for everybody to implement this. And I just want to kind of like iterate something here again, is that in my perspective, and I believe other people think this as well, but if we believe that accounts and cross-chain are not nice to haves for Ethereum, because L2s are the way that Ethereum scales, so cross-chain is something that inherently has to, as well as account abstraction, which is part of that cross-chain solution, they have to be inherently as decentralized and trustless as the underlying layer. We don't want to add centralization on that level and say like, oh, we have the base layer that's decentralized, but if we add proper accounts and proper cross-chain, which is basically allowing things to work at scale, we can't say that those things are not part of the core protocol, in my opinion. And if we believe they're part of the core protocol, that means they have to be just as trustless in their assumptions. And this is why it's so important to us to have this, to promote the user op mempool usage for 7702. And as a result, also for 4337, they will share the same mempool, all of them. And because we want to make sure that we don't lose things along the way as we have better UX. It cannot come at the expense of the decentralization, the security, the censorship resistance, all the things that we mentioned. So what's the next steps? Making sure that we gain those things without losing the really important stuff. That's the heart of Ethereum.
I completely agree. Like most of us joined crypto because of the decentralization aspect and being able to transact trustlessly. So it should not come at a what can I say, trade-off with the centralization for better UX. So I'm completely with you there. And just before I wrap this up, I would like to mention that we've just released the 7702 infra dev docs today. So please check it out once you're done. And thanks everyone for joining this. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. And I'll just
Thanks.
mention, by the way, the docs are at docs.erc4337.io. That's where you can find them. Just so you know.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.